Senate will come to order. The Senate will be in order. At this time, I'd ask the Deputy Secretary to read a communication from the Secretary of State.
I hereby certify that this summary containing the list of names was duly elected to the Georgia General Assembly as State Senate on the November 8, 2022 general election. Senate District 1, Ben Watson. Senate District 2, Derek Mallow. Senate District 3, Mike Hodges. Senate District 4, Billy Hickman. Senate District 5, Sheikh Rahman. Senate District 6, Jason Estevez. Senate District 7, Nabila Islam. Senate District 8, Russ Goodman. Senate District 9, Nikki Merritt. Senate District 10, Emmanuel D. Jones. Senate District 12, Freddie Powell Sims. Senate District 13, Cardin H. Summers. Senate District 14, Josh McLaurin. Senate District 15, Ed Harbison. Senate District 16, Marty Harbin. Senate District 17, Brian Strickland. Senate District 18, John F. Kennedy. Senate District 19, Blake Tillery. Senate District 20, Larry Walker. Senate District 21, Brandon Beach. Senate District 22, Harold V. Jones II. Senate District 23, Max Burns. Senate District 24, Lee Anderson. Senate District 25, Ricky Williams. Senate District 26, David E. Lucas Sr. Senate District 27, Greg Zolazal. Senate District 28, Matt Brass. Senate District 29, Randy Robertson. Senate District 30, Mike Dugan. Senate District 31, Jason Anavatarte. Senate District 32, Kay Kirkpatrick. Senate District 33, Michael Rett. Senate District 34, Valencia MC. Senate District 35, Donzella James. Senate District 36, Nancy G. Orrock. Senate District 37, Ed Setzler. Senate District 38, Horacina Tate. Senate District 39, Sonia M. Halpern. Senate District 40, Sally Harrell. Senate District 41, Kim Jackson. Senate District 42, Alina Parent. Senate District 43, Tanya P. Anderson. Senate District 44, Gail Davenport. Senate District 45, Clint Dixon. Senate District 46, Bill Cowsert. Senate District 47, Frank Ginn. Senate District 48, Sean Still. Senate District 49, Shelley Eccles. Senate District 50, Bo Hatchett. Senate District 51, Steve Gooch. Senate District 52, Chuck Huffstetler. Senate District 53, Colton Moore. Senate District 54, Chuck Payne. Senate District 55, Gloria S. Butler. Senate District 56, John Albers. Respectfully submitted by Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State. That completes the order, Mr. President.
We will now proceed with the swearing in and seating of members of the Senate. All senators, please take your seats. We are honored today to have a member of the Supreme Court of Georgia with us and a former member of this body to administer the oath of office to senators. I'd now recognize a senator from the 18th to introduce our very special guest.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning again. It is really my honor to represent and introduce someone that really doesn't need an introduction to this chamber. Charlie Bethel, as we know him, Senator Bethel, Judge Bethel, and now Justice Bethel, has been a friend to this chamber and a friend to the people of Georgia as he has engaged in public service for a long time. He is a proud double dog. That probably means a little something extra special today and the season that we're in. But he received both his law degree and his business degree from the University of Georgia. He began his career in the private sector, and Justice Bethel answered the call in 2011 by serving as a member in this very body for 5 years. And then in 2017, Governor Nathan Deal appointed him to the Court of Appeals. And then about a year later, in 2018, the governor appointed Justice Bethel to the Supreme Court of Georgia. That is where he sits, and that is where he serves today. Excuse me, his wife, Lindsay. He and his wife, Lindsay, live in Dalton. They have 3 children, Henry, Jeb, and Joanna. I can't tell you what a personal privilege it is to introduce him. I called him and asked if he would do this. As you know, he has sworn many of us in the years past, and he enthusiastically said, absolutely, thank you for giving me the chance. He loves to come back and be with us, senators, anytime he can. So with that, Justice Bethel.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Thank you to the Georgia Senate for the opportunity to be with you. It is indeed a pleasure to be in this chamber with you today, and a special pleasure to be here when so many family members and loved ones are with you. The Senate is indeed a family, and as Senator Kennedy read my biographical information, I'm reminded that I will remind you that not unlike me, it's usually the last sentence that's the most important. I am Lindsay's husband and Henry, Jeb, and Joanna's dad. And if you keep that straight, you might do well in this building. I want to congratulate first those who will be taking this oath for the first time, or the second, or the 10th for my friend from the 15th. Are we 16 now? 50, well, you're 15 in, right? Okay, all right. The dean has sworn many times, but never inappropriately, at least in my presence. As you embark on this session, I hope you'll indulge me just a minute as a citizen, not as a judge, and not even as a former member of the body, to ask you to do 3 things while you're here. Listen purposefully to one another. Learn with and from each other. And above all of that, love one another. If you do that, I expect the rest of us will receive benefit from your service in this place. You will, of course, remain in the prayers of my family throughout your time here and beyond. And I hope you feel that from across this great state, how much people are remembering you. As you prepare to take the oath, I'm going to ask if you've got someone holding a sacred scripture or text, if they'll make their way to whomever is going to be doing the swearing so that you can get situated, and then I'll ask you to prepare yourselves to take an oath. All right. Wave your hand if you're not situated. Okay. All right. Almost there? Okay. As you're able, please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of this state and of the United States, and on all questions and measures which may come before me, I will conduct myself as will in my judgment be most conducive to the interests and prosperity of this state. I further swear or affirm that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state, or due any political subdivision or authority thereof, that I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, of any other state, or any foreign state, which by law I am prohibited from holding, that I have been a resident of my district for the time required by the Constitution and the laws of this state, that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. So help me God. Congratulations.
Let me extend my congratulations to everybody here today, to each of you, and Justice Bethel, wherever he is. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Let me have y'all's attention for just a minute. Justice Bethel has graciously agreed to be available after we adjourn today for any senator who wants to take an individual photograph of the swearing-in ceremony, and we can do that up here by the well. The Senate photographer will be down here, wherever you want to do it. Yep. They'll organize this on the floor of the chamber after we adjourn today, so that will be available to you. Is there any objection to the seating of any senator? The chair hears none, and all senators are seated. We will now proceed to the call of the roll of senators. Are there any motions to excuse? Are there any motions to excuse? Recognize distinguished majority leader.
Mr. Secretary, I'd like to make a motion we excuse 3 senators today. The senator from the 25th, the senator from the 47th, and the senator from 46, and the senator from Athens. What's the district number? I can't see it back there. 47. 46, 47, and 25. Thank you.
The senator has asked unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 46th, 45th, 47th, and 25. Is there objection? Not 45. 45th is here. Is there any objection to the excusal of those 3 senators? The chair hears none, and they are excused. The secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. Who voted? Let me have your, excuse me. We have 51 senators have responded, and a quorum is established. Let me have your attention, please. You have on your desk a copy of the oath of office that you just took. Please sign that oath and return it to the Secretary of the Senate. Once you have signed that oath, we will be able to deliver to you your official commission of office, and we will have staff from our office just outside the front door when you leave the chamber today. So as soon as we get a copy of your signed oath, we will deliver to you your official commission of office. The next order of business is the election of the President Pro Tem. I recognize the distinguished majority leader for the purpose of making a nomination. Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, I stand today humbly to nominate the distinguished senator from the 18th District, John Kennedy, for President Pro Tem of the State Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Is there a second? I recognize the Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I second the nomination of the senator from the 18th, John Kennedy, for President Pro Tempore.
Thank you, Madam Minority Leader. The senator from the 18th has been nominated and second. Do you wish to speak to the nomination? You're recognized to do so.
Good morning, Senators. It's great to be back in Atlanta. Hope you are all excited as I am, and I hope your families are as well. I want to thank you all for your service, and I also want to thank your families for allowing you to serve. It is definitely an honor and a privilege to represent the people from our districts. I stand before you today humbly to nominate our friend John F. Kennedy, a colleague known to us as Senator John F. Kennedy here in this building, but to the rest of the world, you may know him as JFK. He was first elected to the state Senate in 2014. But before his undoubted political career began, with a name like that, how could you pursue anything other than politics, right? He attended and graduated Mercer University to obtain both his bachelor's degree in economics and a degree in the field of law. John has had tremendous success in his legal career, rising to the current position as partner at the Macon-based law firm of James Bates, Brannon, Groover, and he practices in that area in the civil litigation, trial work, business advice, and fiduciary law practice there in Macon near his home. His efforts as a public servant have transcended the political realm as he has held positions in various civic clubs and community organizations over the years. John has served on the board of directors of the Macon Civic Club, and he currently serves on the executive board of directors for the Central Georgia Council of the Boy Scouts of America. He has served as president of the Macon Bar Association from 2009 to 2010 and is a member of the Board of Governors for the State Bar of Georgia from 2009 to current. John is also a class of 2000 graduate of Leadership Macon and a 2007 graduate of Leadership Georgia. He was appointed in 2013 by former Speaker David Ralston to the Immigration Enforcement Review Board. In 2014, John was invited and appointed to the Mercer University Walter F. Georgia School of Law Board of Visitors. After being elected to represent his community as state senator, he served as floor leader to then Governor Nathan Deal during his freshman term before being elected in 2017 as the caucus chairman for the Senate majority. John has served with distinction, and his tenure has been marked by his tremendous leadership abilities. It's not been gone unnoticed either, as he has been recognized by several groups with awards such as Georgia Chamber's Freshman Legislator of the Year and James Magazine's Freshman Legislator of the Year. He's also a man of many hobbies, including his love of wooden boats and the water. I know this because I've had the opportunity to spend time on one of his wooden boats just not long ago, in fact, just 2 years ago, up at Lake Burton in northeast Georgia. And sure enough, those wooden boats can float just as good as the steel or aluminum ones that you would see out there today. I didn't know that they even still made wooden boats until that day, but it was a beautiful boat. But aside from all the hobbies and remarkable achievements in his career as a lawyer and an elected official, those who are fortunate enough to call him a friend know that he never forgets what is important in life. They say he is the friend that is there when your children are born and when your parents are buried, that you can trust him with your kids and the code to your debit card. And I'm honored today with the opportunity to nominate Senator John F. Kennedy as the next President Pro Tem of our Georgia Senate. But before I go any farther, let me say all of the things I've just mentioned makes him a successful businessman, but the thing that makes him the man that you all know is his love for his family. John has been married to his wonderful wife, Susan, for 29 years, and they have 2 children, Catherine and Will, and we're blessed to have them with us today, and you'll hear more about them in just a little bit. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your unanimous consent to nominate and elect our good friend, Senator John F. Kennedy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Does the minority leader wish to speak? Do you wish to speak to the nomination? She waves. Does any other senator wish to speak on the nomination? Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I unanimously consent that the nominations be closed and the Secretary of the Senate be instructed to cast the vote of the entire body for Senator John F. Kennedy of the 18th for President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Senator. The majority leader has moved that the nominations be closed and that the Secretary cast the unanimous vote of the Senate for the senator from the 18th. Is there objection? The chair hears none. The nominations are closed. All ballots are cast, and I declare the senator from the 18th District duly elected President Pro Tem. At this time, I would ask the following members to serve as a committee of escort to escort the new President Pro Tem to the rostrum. The distinguished senator from the 15th. If you can proceed to the rear, the distinguished majority leader and the minority leader. If you could proceed to the rear of the chamber at this time. Mr. Doorkeeper.
Mr. President, the Honorable John F. Kennedy, Senator from the 18th District and newly elected President Pro Tem of the Georgia Senate, awaits entrance into this chamber.
Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow the distinguished senator from the 18th, his committee of escort, entrance to the chamber. The Committee of Escort will escort the President Pro Tem to the rostrum. Members of the Senate, it is my high honor and distinct privilege to present to you the distinguished senator from the 18th, the President Pro Tem of the Senate.
Thank you. Got bang?
It's all yours.
No. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you to the members of this body. I am honored to be elected to this body to serve as pro tem. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Justice Bethel, one of the former colleagues that I have tremendous personal and professional respect for. You might want to take a seat. This may be a few minutes. But thank you for the honor of standing. I have such tremendous respect for Justice Bethel, both personally and professionally, and count it as a real honor to have served in this chamber with him. Justice Bethel, thank you very much. And also Pastor Daddy Rick, as I said, what a true friend and a servant of the Lord he is, and I thank him for coming and sharing his thoughts today. I was going to tell you when I introduced him, you're in for a treat, but I think now you know that you certainly were, and he's just a dear friend, and I'm grateful that he's here. Also with us today is my wife, Susan, of 29 years, and our son, Will, and our daughter, Catherine. And I will tell you, it is because of them that I'm able to serve in the Senate. It was with their permission and support that I ran for the state Senate 8 years ago, and it is with their continued support that I am able to stand before you today. So to Susan and Catherine and Will, thank you for letting me do this. I also have some really good friends and family here with me today that have supported me throughout my life. My brother Eric is with us. A very dear friend, Papa Bean, as he is known in the family, is with us, who was my freshman college advisor at Mercer and saw me through many days of where I needed support and was there for me at all times. Distinguished longtime friends that are with us from my law firm that are here, and I'm so grateful. James Banner, thank you. And then I would tell you, my lifelong friend, Judge Tripself. Many of you know him because you know me, and I would simply tell you this, that I would wish for everyone that you have a friend in life like I have in Tripself. I'm very much looking forward to working with our Lieutenant Governor-elect, Burt Jones. He has been a friend of mine and for many of you, and he has served this chamber well. Since it is a custom of this state that the governor and the lieutenant governor are sworn in at the same ceremony, well, you're stuck with me for a few days until the lieutenant governor is elected on Thursday, and he'll be sworn in with our great governor on that day as well. We're all looking forward to Burt Jones's leadership as our lieutenant governor, and I'm glad that he joined us earlier today. To Lieutenant Governor-elect Jones and his wife Jan, their journey of public service and the campaign for lieutenant governor has been a family mission, and Burt Jones's service as lieutenant governor will be a family mission, and we thank he and his family for their future service. You'll see the staff handing out to you a special gift from me to you today. As you open these, you will see that it is a blanket with a specific tartan design. Many of you are familiar with what tartans are and their traditional Scottish history. The tartan before you has a special design, though. It represents this state, our home, the place each of us fight for and will fight every day for the next 40 legislative days and beyond. This particular tartan was designed to commemorate Georgia's 250th birthday in 1982. It did not become the official tartan of the state until 1997 with the passage of HB 644 by House Representative member Sonny Dixon. To me, this tartan represents more than just Georgia's original founding all those years ago. It represents our jobs in this building, the honor in the role as senators. The blanket, this tartan blanket, is woven to withstand the elements. It provides comfort to those that it wraps around, just as we legislators do when our communities struggle. It protects against the harsh weather, much like we do in the coming days of bad House bills. In all seriousness, each certified tartan in this world is different, and the one in your hand is made up from different colors in a unique pattern woven together. Under this gold dome, we are woven together. While we all have different backgrounds and different experiences, we share a common bond to serve our fellow citizens and represent their interest over our own. We comfort them lovingly. We protect them zealously. I share these gifts with you to honor you and your position, and as a reminder that we are all in this together. My office will be here to serve this entire chamber. Whether Republican or Democrat, you will be listened to, and more importantly, you will be heard. We may not agree on all issues, and certainly in the days ahead we'll have issues that we don't agree on, but you will be treated respectfully. To our colleagues in the House, we have an opportunity to renew relationships and build new ones for the good work that this General Assembly will do over the coming months. To Speaker Burns and the others in the House, we extend our best wishes and our courtesy and our professionalism on legislation to do the work for the people of Georgia, the work that they expect and that they deserve. Now I want to end my address to you as President Pro Tem with more than just a message of hope and good faith. We are all committed to a successful legislative session and the Senate's role as the upper chamber where we perfect legislation. But no speech can be as inspiring as knowing that our flagship university is on the cusp of another monumental achievement out in that strange land to the west. So I leave you with this: go Dogs, and may God bless the great state of Georgia and all of us senators who will serve in this chamber and the families that support us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. So here we go. Thank you. Okay. Where are we? Right here. All right. The next order of business will be the election of the Secretary of Senate. I recognize the senator from the 51st, the distinguished majority leader, for the purpose of making a nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President. You like to hear that, don't you?
I do. That sounds
All right.
good. Thank you.
I proudly stand today to nominate our friend, the Honorable David Cook, to serve as Secretary of the Senate.
The majority leader has nominated Mr. David Cook to the office of Secretary of Senate. Is there a second? I recognize the senator from the 55th District, the distinguished minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the nomination of the Honorable David Cook for Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Leader. The senator from the 55th has seconded the nomination of Mr. Cook, and Mr. Cook is nominated. Does the majority leader wish to speak to his nomination? Please, majority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I stand before you, senators, to nominate David Cook as to be our next Secretary of the State Senate. David Cook graduated from Marist High School before going off to attend at the time called Georgia Southern College, now Georgia Southern University, obviously. There he received a bachelor's degree in political science and was elected student body president, a first sign of the respected leader he was to become in his career. The Georgia Senate came calling David at an early age as he served as a Senate reading clerk upon graduation from Georgia Southern, where he served in that role for 3 years. Then David went to study and received a law degree from the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and was admitted to the State Bar of Georgia. After brief stints as a professor at Georgia Southern and counsel at the UGA School of Law, he began a solo law practice, eventually moving to the firm of McGuire, Cook, and Martin as a managing partner. But even throughout his days of practicing law, David could not escape the grasp of the state Senate. He served as the counsel to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, who had then rising star State Senator Nathan Deal as its chairman. When Senator Deal was elected President Pro Tem, David followed as his chief of staff and again followed him as his chief of staff in his congressional office in Washington, D.C. for 2 years. David went on to attempt to tackle the field of health care, first as general counsel and director of advocacy to the Medical Association of Georgia, before becoming its chief executive officer, a position he held for nearly a decade. He returned to serve the state as the commissioner of the Department of Community Health under Governor Nathan Deal before heading back to the Georgia Senate as its secretary. David has been married to his wife, Beth, for 34 years and have 2 sons, Lowell and Andrew. Lowell is married to Tamdrin, and they have given David 2 beautiful grandchildren, ages 1 and 2. Senators, I'm honored to make this nomination today, and I encourage you to support his nomination and his election to continue to serve in the important role that he serves us so well, and that is Secretary of the State Senate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Majority Leader has nominated Mr. David Cook to the office of Secretary of the Senate. Is there a second? I recognize the senator from the 55th, the distinguished Minority Leader.
I second the nomination of the Honorable David Cook for Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Does the Majority Leader wish to speak further to the nomination, or the Minority Leader? Madam, do you wish to speak to the your second? You waive. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? I recognize the Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the nominations be closed and that the Deputy Secretary be instructed to cast the vote of the entire body for the Honorable David Cook as Secretary of the Senate.
The Majority Leader has moved that the nominations be closed and that the Deputy Secretary cast the unanimous vote of the Secretary for the Senate for Mr. Cook. Is there objection? The Chair hears none. The nominations are closed and all ballots cast, and I declare Mr. Cook duly elected Secretary of the Senate. Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow David.
President, the Honorable David Cook, newly elected Secretary of the Georgia Senate, awaits entrance into the chamber.
Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow David Cook, Secretary of the Senate, entrance to the chamber and escort him to the rostrum. Yeah. Mr. Secretary, are you prepared to take the oath of office?
I am, sir.
Then if you would, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will discharge my duties
I do solemnly swear that I will discharge my duties
faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge.
faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Members of the Senate, it is my honor to present to you David Cook, our Secretary of the Senate.
Let me just say a very quick word of thanks to each and every one of you. It's such an honor to be here. I cut my teeth here in the Senate when I think 22 is my first job here. I love the Senate. It's a high honor and privilege to be the Secretary of the Senate. I want to thank you for your continued support. My door is always open. Please stop by if I can ever be of help to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This body and this chamber are truly blessed to have the service of you, Mr. Cook. Thank you for agreeing to come back and serving as our secretary. Our next order of business will be the election of the Sergeant at Arms. I recognize the senator from the 29th for the purpose of making a nomination.
Mr. President, I nominate Mr. Robert Brown for the position of Sergeant at Arms.
The senator from the 29th has nominated Mr. Robert Brown to the office of Sergeant at Arms. Is there a second? I recognize the senator from the 22nd District.
Mr. President, I second the nomination of our decorated Vietnam veteran, which makes him uniquely qualified to handle this group, Mr. Robert Brown for Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from the 22nd has seconded the nomination of Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown is nominated. Does the Majority Whip wish to speak to the nomination? The Majority Whip is recognized.
Colleagues, I stand before you today to advance the nomination of Bob Brown for the position of Sergeant at Arms. We all know him. We have all been subject as a doorkeeper. We've seen how he keeps order in the chamber, which is the most important chamber in this building. Bob Brown wasn't born in Georgia, though he got here as quick as he could, because Bob grew up in East Tennessee, and after becoming of age, he served our country in Vietnam, where he received the Bronze Star. As soon as he got home, Bob came to Georgia in 1968. After a 35-year career with General Motors, first at the Stalltail Avenue location, which we know is just right down the road from here, then at the GM Dorville plant. After 35 years, Bob retired in 2003. He first came to the Georgia Senate as a doorkeeper in 2017, serving under Sergeant at Arms John Long, and has been here ever since. Colleagues, I humbly request your support for Mr. Robert Brown for Sergeant at Arms for the Georgia State Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whip. Does the Minority Whip wish to speak to the nomination? He waves. Are there any other nominations? I recognize the Minority Leader. Excuse me, the Majority Leader.
Well, not so fast.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that the nominations for Sergeant at Arms be closed and that the Secretary be instructed to cast the vote of the entire body for Mr. Robert Brown, Sergeant at Arms.
The Majority Leader has moved that the nominations be closed and that the Secretary cast the unanimous vote of the Senate for Mr. Robert Brown as Sergeant at Arms. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the nominations are closed, and all ballots cast, and I declare Mr. Brown duly elected Sergeant at Arms. Mr. Doorkeeper.
Mr. President, the Honorable Robert Brown, newly elected Sergeant at Arms of the Georgia Senate, awaits entrance into this chamber.
Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow Mr. Robert Brown, Sergeant at Arms, entrance to the chamber and escort him to the front of the chamber. Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for your service. The next order of business will be the adoption of several resolutions related to the organization of the Senate. The Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution Number 1 by Senator Gooch of the 51st. A resolution to notify the House of Representatives that the Senate has convened and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Mr. Secretary, please read the resolution SR 2.
Senate Resolution Number 2 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution to notify the governor that the General Assembly has convened and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. At this time, I will appoint the following senators to the Committee of Notification to join with a similar committee from the House for the purpose of notifying the governor that the General Assembly has convened. The senator from the 18th, the senator from the 15th, the senator from the 51st, and the senator from the 55th. I would ask that the members of the committee meet with the Secretary of the Senate at the rostrum at the conclusion of today's session. I now recognize the Majority Leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Resolution 2 and all resolutions requiring transmittal be immediately transmitted to the House.
The Majority Leader has moved that all resolutions requiring transmittal be immediately transmitted to the House. Is there objection? Without objections, all resolutions will be immediately transmitted. We have an additional resolution to be read. Mr. Secretary, would you read the next resolution?
Senate Resolution Number 6 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, a resolution relative to meetings and adjournments of the General Assembly and for other purposes. Be it resolved by the General Assembly of Georgia that, except as otherwise provided by this resolution or by subsequent resolution of the General Assembly, meetings of the 2023 regular session of the General Assembly during the period of Monday, January 9th, 2023 through Wednesday, March 29th, 2023 shall be held in accordance with the following schedule. Monday, January 9th, Wednesday, January 11th, Thursday, January 12th. Oh, that completes the order, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you. I recognize the Majority Leader to speak to the adjournment resolution.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, this may be the best news you'll see all. We want to talk to you about this resolution, this adjournment resolution. This may be the first time in the history that we have been able to set a legislative calendar on day one for the full 40 days of the legislative session. Isn't that great news? All right, all right, all right, all right. That is true bipartisanship, isn't it, Mr. Dean? It is no secret that there are a lot of fresh faces within the leadership under the Gold Dome as we begin this biennium, both in the House and the Senate. This resolution is a great reflection on the ability of the new House and the Senate leadership to unify and come together to improve the effectiveness of the General Assembly as we begin our work for the people of Georgia. I'm proud of the work that we've done, and we look forward to the many days to come. I respectfully ask for you to unify this resolution today and pass it unanimously, and we'll pass it on over to the House, and then we'll get to work on Wednesday. So I want to bring up a couple things for your attention. That is, crossover day will be on March 6th, Monday, March 6th. You'll notice the Friday before will be the committee work day. That is the only Friday we will work this session other than this Friday, which is a session day that we're going to come in for session day number 4. So those are the only 2 Fridays that we plan to be here to work officially. Now, I'm not going to encourage you to go home on Thursday night. You should stay and work for your constituents in your office on Friday, or not. But you can also see the other work days will be March 22nd and March 28th. Sine die is scheduled to be Wednesday, March 29th. Mr. President, I will yield the well and look forward to a unanimous vote on this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? And before we vote, congratulations, Mr. Leader. You put a lot of work into this, and this entire chamber is grateful, and I appreciate the expression of that gratitude for the work that you've done. The chair hears no objections. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of SR 6, the adjournment resolution. All in favor of the SR 6 will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. So that's back a few pages. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's SR2. All votes having been cast, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, so the motion and resolution is adopted. Okay. We have a message from the House. The Secretary will now read the message from the House.
The following message was received from the House through Mr. Riley, the clerk thereof. The House has adopted by the requisite constitutional majority the following resolutions of the House. Mr. President, House Resolution 1 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, a resolution to notify the Senate that the House of Representatives has convened and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Okay. All right. Mr. Secretary, would you read H.R. 2?
H.R. number 2 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, a resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and Senate for the purpose of the inauguration of the governor, the lieutenant governor, and other executive constitutional officers of the state of Georgia and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now we have an additional H.R. House resolution for the joint session of the purpose of inaugurating the governor. Call on the majority leader for a motion. To speak to the motion, speak to the resolution,
Thank you, Mr. President. As usual, we have a joint session to inaugurate the governor, the lieutenant governor, and all constitutional officers. As you know, that will be held off-site on Thursday. We will not have to convene in here in the chamber. We will convene over at the Georgia State Convocation Center for the purpose of the inauguration. So we want you all to be on time and be there to support our constitutional officers. There's language in the resolution that speaks to if there's inclement weather or for some reason the facilities are not conducive for some reason to do it, then it will be held in the House chamber per the instructions of the Speaker of the House. Mr. President, I think that covers the resolution. I hope you'll support the passage of this, and we'll be ready to move on to the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Does any other senator wish to speak to the resolution? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. At this time, I will appoint the following senators to the Committee of Escort to join with a similar committee from the House for the purpose of escorting His Excellency, the Governor, to his inauguration. The senator from the 18th, the senator from the 15th, the senator from the 51st, and the senator from the 55th. Mr. Secretary, do we have additional resolutions? The Senate will stand at ease. All right, the Senate will come back to order. The Senate will come back to order. Mr. Secretary, please read SR 3, Senate Resolution 3.
Senate Resolution 3 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, a resolution adopting the rules of the Senate and for other purposes. Be it resolved by the Senate that the rules of the Senate in effect at the adjournment of the 2022 regular session of the General Assembly are hereby adopted as the rules of the Senate for the 2023-2024 biennium of the General Assembly unless and until otherwise provided by resolution of the Senate with the following amendments. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I now recognize the Majority Leader to speak to Senate Resolution 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, you should have already seen this blue book that's on your desk or in your desk. It's probably under the Constitution. This is the book that we use every year to guide us. It sets the rules and the decorum of this Senate chamber. We use it daily. It helps us to keep order, and it helps us to facilitate all the busy work we have to do. These rules get changed every 2 years. Most of the time they're modified in a small way, just like they will be today. I'd like to thank the Legislative Counsel's Office for putting a lot of time and effort into this. These are lawyers that represent both Democrats and Republicans. You will see there are 3 changes that are being recommended this year by the Legislative Counsel's Office. Section 1, which is Rule 1-1.1, changes to the description of the duties for the Lieutenant Governor. Legislative Counsel wants to add this definition explicitly stating that the office indeed have legislative duties as outlined in our Senate rules. Currently, this is not stated clearly within the rules itself. The Constitution and the courts recognize 3 officers of the state Senate: the Secretary of the Senate, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, and the Lieutenant Governor. All of these officers have legislative duties. For example, the Lieutenant Governor assigns bills to committees, and it goes on and on and on. There's many examples of that. This rule change simply recognizes his role in the legislative process in the rules. Does not change the Constitution, does not change state laws in any way. Section 7 adds 2 new rules. That's new Rule 9-1.17. To recognize that we as members can rely on communications with constituents, advocates, and experts on various issues that come before us. It's no secret that many members of our body have only one staff member within their office that they often share with other members. Also, it cannot be expected that each senator be an expert on every issue we work on in our elected roles. Communications with these third parties is crucial for us to be efficient and effective in our duties as senators. The second rule added in Section 7 is Rule 9-1.18, stating that each member enjoys a right to legislative privilege as a legislator. Legislative privilege has been debated and argued in the courts, and we want our rules to reflect the Senate's position that each member has that privilege. We should also ensure with respect to each other's members' privilege as well. The following changes in the resolution have been suggested by Senate leadership. The first of these is in Section 2, Rule 1-1.2. This will require the pro tem to step down from his or her post if they indicate they are running for another office. Candidly, sometimes running for another office makes people say and do things that not all members of the caucus agree with, and we want to make sure we avoid that in the future. Succession of the pro tem is not affected by this rule. They will still have to be nominated from the Senate body and voted on. The only way to succeed a vacancy in the pro tem's office would be for the Senate to reconvene and to do that very step like we did today. Day-to-day administrative duties in any period between their stepping down and the Senate convening and electing a new pro tem will be temporarily undertaken by the Secretary of the Senate, who is an officer of the Senate, as we indicated earlier. These duties include human resource items and purchasing authority. Committees on Administrative Affairs will still have the overall authority of the operations of the Senate. The second of these changes is in Section 3, 1-2.3 of your rule book, increasing the number of seats that the party's whips get to choose for their deputy whips. The majority whip will now have 4 seats, and the minority whip will select 2. Under the current rules of the Senate, that was 2 and 1. We're basically doubling that to go to 4 and 2. Section 4 provides for the elimination of the Special Judiciary Standing Committee. This committee is rarely used, and the Judiciary Committee can handle all legislation previously sent to the Special Judiciary Committee. This section will add the Committee on Families and Children. This was a priority of the Lieutenant Governor Jones and is a great way for the Senate to prioritize families and some of our most vulnerable citizens in our state. Section 5 repeals the ability of the Rules Committee to substitute bills. This rule was created in 2019, and with 4 years under the new rule, we have received complaints from a lot of you members about the last-minute changes to bills and rules. Repealing this rule will strengthen the committee process, as the Rules Committee will still have the ability to send a bill back to its original committee for fine-tuning or any other changes as it sees fit, but it will not be making those substitutes in the committee itself. And Section 6 narrows the appointment of ex officio members to only standing committees. Ex officios have been abused in recent years on study committees, and we wish to avoid that moving forward. Senators, I ask for your unity on these positive administrative changes to these Senate rules in an effort to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of the work of this body. Mr. President, that concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. The senator, you do have questions. The senator from the 42nd is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I do.
Thank you. I'm looking at line 101, the final line on page 5.
Could you repeat? I cannot hear you very well up here.
Something's going on with the audio today.
The audio's not good this
okay.
week.
Well, I can talk loud.
You can.
As all of you know. Last line, 101. Respecting the privilege of other members. Can you enlighten me a little bit more on what that means?
I think that would be if you and your colleague to your right or left were having a conversation about a piece of legislation, you would have immunity as well as the colleague you're talking to. And so you would not be able to reveal the conversation that you and she were having without jeopardizing the immunity that senator also enjoys.
Thank you. One more question, if you'll continue
Sure.
to yield. The line 14, legislative duties and legislative activities of the Lieutenant Governor. I probably should already know this, but can you enlighten me a little bit more about specifically what those legislative duties and activities are for that position?
Sure. And Senator, you've been here for many, many years, so you have witnessed this firsthand. The Lieutenant Governor is very hands-on in the day-to-day operations of this body. Not only is the presiding officer, but as his role as the Lieutenant Governor, he chairs the Committee on Assignments. The Committee on Assignments is made up of 4 people in addition to himself or herself. So you have the majority leader, the majority leader, and the President Pro Tem. In addition, the President, which is the Lieutenant Governor, also makes 2 appointments to the Committee on Assignments. And those 5 people, including himself or herself, make most of the decisions up front before session starts. And you'll be getting some information about that this week on who the chairman of committees are going to be and the makeup of all of those committees. That decision is made by those 5 individual senators and the Lieutenant Governor himself. So he has an active role in selecting committee makeup, chairmanships on a daily basis. He sits in the office in the meeting on Committee on Assignments, and we assign bills that are introduced by the members of this body, and those bills get assigned to various committees. He and his office make recommendations and suggestions to the Committee on Assignments on which committees those bills should be assigned to. Those are just a couple of examples. I could go on, but the day-to-day functions of the Lieutenant Governor are very involved in the legislative process, but we are not changing state law, and we are not impacting the constitutional requirements of his office at all at this time.
Thank you. So I take it from your answer that the main duties relate to the Committee on Assignments.
That's primarily on a day-to-day basis, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I'm happy to yield, or I will sit down and ask for your support of the rules that we have
Chair
before us.
you do have questions, Mr. Leader. The chair recognizes the senator from the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentleman Yip,
I do, Senator.
is it my understanding that you've gotten rid of one committee, which is special duty, and created another standing committee?
That's correct.
So will that standing committee take the place of special duty?
Yes, sir, it will. It'll replace it as the new rule is being proposed today. That's correct. And I would say that I think most people in this room would support that new committee. It is important that we address the many needs of our underprivileged children, and a lot of families in our state are suffering.
Seeing no other questions, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution?
Thank you very much.
The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of SR 3, the rules of the Senate. All in favor of SR 3 will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The secretary will now unlock the machine. Go to 4. Fails. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 28, the nays are 23, and the motion is not adopted. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, I have to stand here and move that the Senate reconsider its action in the failing to adopt the Senate rules for this session, Senate Resolution 3.
There's nothing there. The majority leader has moved that the Senate reconsider the action of failing of SR 3. Is there objection? There is objection. Gooch. I recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, without the rules being adopted, we can't move forward on important decisions that have to be made. You had the questions earlier from the senator from the 42nd about the duties of the lieutenant governor. This week, the Committee on Assignments will be issuing letters to each of us that'll notify us all what our committee structure is going to be. It'll notify us if we're committee chairman or vice chairman or secretary. It'll let other leaders in the building and the people in the House and the governor's office know what important positions our senators are going to be taking this year, so they can make decisions as well, such as who would be their floor leaders in the governor's office. It's critically important that we get these rules passed, and we would love to do it today. If not today, we'll have to do it Wednesday. So I would love for you all to support us. Democrats and Republicans should be unified in this position as well. We shouldn't stand here today and emulate and repeat what you've been seeing in Washington, D.C. for the past few years. It's terrible. We can work together. We've done it in the past, and we'll do it again. I ask for you to support these rules, and I ask for you to vote to reconsider this motion at this time. Thank you very much.
For what purpose does the senator from the 50th rise? State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the state of Georgia right now is a hub for sex trafficking and human trafficking?
The senator speaks of that which he knows.
And it further, Mr. President?
Yes.
Isn't it true that the Children and Families Committee that's been proposed in this rule change would take a significant step in decreasing that and could go a long way in helping the families, the children, and the victims of sex crimes in the state of Georgia?
I believe the senator understands the purpose of the committee to be created and also speaks with great passion.
And one more. A vote against that would be a vote against this Children and Families Committee that's being proposed.
The senator speaks of that which he knows.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any senator wish to speak against the motion? The chair hears none. All those in favor of the motion on reconsideration will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay, and the secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion for reconsideration, the yeas are 31, the nays are 20, and the motion has passed. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
I'd like to make a motion that we table Senate Resolution 3, perhaps till Wednesday.
The majority leader has made a motion to table Senate Resolution number 3. We will go straight to the vote, as a motion to table is not debatable. So, we understand that the motion to table has been made. Mr. Secretary, all those in favor of the motion to table vote yea. Those against the motion to table vote nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion to table, SR 3, the yeas are 45, the nays are 6, so the resolution has been tabled. Ready? The chair recognizes the distinguished majority leader. But before we do that, we're going to ask the secretary to read a resolution SR 4. SR 4.
Senate Resolution Number 4 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, a resolution relative to officials, employees, and committees in the Senate and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the distinguished majority leader to speak to the motion, or the resolution, rather.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. We'll try again. Senate Resolution 4 is the introduction of the housekeeping resolution that we do also every 2 years. The resolution is the housekeeping bill for the Senate, the budget bill for the Committee on Administrative Affairs. The only change provided in the language in this resolution is an additional sentence, which is section 2-2, which reflects the ability of the Secretary of the Senate to obtain the same salary increase as other state employees when they are provided a cost of living adjustment in the state budget. This added sentence is the exact language that's already being used by the Friends in the House regarding the compensation of the clerk of the House, so it just creates parity between the Senate clerk and the House clerk. Mr. President, I'm happy to take questions or yield the will.
You have no questions.
Thank you very much.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of SR 4, the housekeeping resolution. All in favor of SR 4 will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay, and the secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of SR 4, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and the adoption is, the resolution is adopted. All right, we're going to move now to the introduction of bills and resolutions. All senators having bills or resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the secretary's desk at this time. During the interim, the Senate has received communications from the Lieutenant Governor and the Supreme Court requesting that their appointments to the Judicial Qualification Commission be confirmed by the Senate. The Secretary will read the communications.
Mr. President, the Senate has received communications from the Lieutenant Governor and the Supreme Court of Georgia requesting that the Senate confirm the following appointments to the Judicial Qualifications Commission. Mr. Warren Selby, Mr. Dax Eric Lopez. A copy of the full communication has been placed on each senator's desk. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The Secretary has placed the names of the appointees to the Judicial Qualification Commission on your desk for review. Pursuant to Senate Rule 3-3.1, the appointments are referred to the Committee on Assignments. Are there any unanimous consents? This is the portion where we would normally, or the section where we would normally go to points of personal privilege. I believe that we have decided, or the leadership of the Democrats and the Republicans have decided to waive points of personal privilege for today. Given the nature of family being here, we of course will go back and resume points of personal privilege on Wednesday. did want to recognize, nope, didn't need to do that. All right. I'll recognize the majority leader for a motion relative to day one.
All right, the words you've been waiting to hear. Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Wednesday, January 11th, 2023.
Other announcements? Are there other announcements? I'd like to remind our colleagues that the governor's inaugural events on Thursday, the inaugural ceremony of Governor Brian Kemp and the Georgia Constitutional Officers Thursday, January the 12th at the Georgia State Convocation Center. At 8 a.m. the doors will be open, and at 9:30 the inaugural ceremony begins. Transportation will be provided from the south deck for legislators and staff beginning at 8 a.m. The inaugural gala starts Thursday the 12th at the State Farm Arena. 6 p.m. the doors will be open, and at 7 p.m. the inaugural gala begins. Mr. Secretary, are there any other any other announcements, rather? Madam Secretary, please read the announcements.
As a reminder, please be sure to sign your oath of office and return to the Secretary of the Senate right outside the front door. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, this is a very important day, but we got a very important game this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to buckle down, get ready, and go Dogs!
I believe the senator knows of which he speaks. The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that since we waived the points of personal privilege, I was not able to wish my mother a happy birthday? Mom, happy birthday.
All right. Very nice. Are there any other motions, any other announcements to be made? The chair sees none. There's a pending motion to adjourn on the table. All those in favor will say yay. All those opposed will say nay. All those in favor? All those opposed? No. It's close, but the ayes clearly have it. We're adjourned.